Let's talk to our correspondent, Yena Lee. She joins us now from Beijing. Yena, Antony Blinken heading to China with a pretty stern message, warning Beijing over its support for Russia's military. How's that being perceived there?
Well, for Beijing, criticism of its relationship with Moscow is hypocritical and irresponsible. But let's rewind a little bit. Secretary of State Antony Blinken had said just before his trip here to China that China is the primary contributor to Russia's defense industrial base. The US has not accused China of directly selling lethal weapons to Moscow, but Ukraine's supporters are increasingly worried about China's indirect help. We're talking about exports of mechanical parts and technology and what the US now calls dual-use components to Russia. Unnamed US officials told the Wall Street Journal that Washington could even threaten to slap sanctions on Chinese banks involved in these exports, and the timing of those leaks probably made to lay the groundwork ahead of the visit for Blinken and his talks with his counterparts. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs here in Beijing has already reacted, saying that China has a right to normal trade and economic cooperation with Russia and all other countries, and this should not be violated. Both sides then are clearly trying to pass on messages rather publicly ahead of their closed-door meetings. And if Blinken's meetings in Shanghai go well, and if his 6-hour marathon talks with his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi in Beijing goes well, he might be granted an audience with President Xi Jinping, like during his last visit here to China. But at this stage, we don't know yet.
And Yena, as we started the bulletin at the top, the US Senate just passing that aid package. It includes, doesn't it, support for Taiwan. Also could result in the Chinese-owned social media platform TikTok being banned. It's rather awkward timing, isn't it, for this visit?
Absolutely. $8 billion US dollars to counter communist China, according to the US Congress. This budget is destined for the Indo-Pacific region, and in particular Taiwan. And here in Beijing, the Taiwan Affairs Office has reacted, saying that these bills, I quote, send the wrong signal to Taiwan independent separatist forces, and we are resolutely opposed to it. And just moments ago, officials also warned that this aid increases the risk of conflict. But for the US selling weapons to Taipei, that's nothing particularly new. And on top of this military aid, there's also been a law concerning TikTok, and the US is one step closer to banning that social media app in the US if the Chinese parent group ByteDance doesn't sell it off.
Yeah, no, thanks very much, Yena Lee, our correspondent, talking to us there from Beijing.